Believe it or not, we are nearly one-third of the way through the NFL season. We'll debrief about a wild week 5 and give you our week 6 full cash and GPP lineup, all coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee.
And I'm Michael Kurtzman, and we are the Fantasy Football Consultants.
Michael, boy, last weekend was crazy. If you're a tennis fan, you could watch the French Open. Basketball had the NBA championships, and baseball had its playoffs. But for my money, I was all tuned in to week 5 of the NFL.
Yeah, that was week 5 of the NFL was a crazy, crazy week. On Sunday night, we saw the Seahawks narrowly come back and beat the Vikings.
Yeah.
We also saw my 49ers get pummeled by the Miami Dolphins. It's okay, guys. I want us to tank. It's all good.
Whoa, tank. You're giving up on the season?
Yes, I am. If we can tank for someone not Trevor Lawrence, I will be totally fine with that. All right, now for some of the big football news. As you all know, Sunday afternoon football, Dak Prescott had that scary, scary ankle injury. It's okay, though. He is fine. He had surgery that same day, and they fixed up his ankle, though he will be likely out for the rest of the year. And in stunning fashion, the Las Vegas Raiders beat the Kansas City Chiefs 40-32 in one of the most unlikely upsets probably of the entire season.
Yeah, this was a bad week for the two Super Bowl participants of last year, the Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. I still can't get over that you're giving up on the season. You have the same record as the Cowboys, who are in first place. I think you guys are going to be just fine. Remember, they expanded the playoffs where 3 teams get into the wild card. I think you guys have an excellent chance. Just going to be, how do you do in the NFC West? Because you got a lot of tough games.
No, yeah, that is definitely the toughest division. Probably the worst one there is the Cardinals. Then it might be the Rams, and Seahawks are 1 and the Niners are 2.
Well, if you finish second in the division, you're going to make the playoffs. I get guaranteed.
If you finish second in the NFC West, you're bound to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
In fact, my prediction that I was talking about with my dad was that I predicted 3 of the NFC West teams will make the playoffs: the Rams, the Niners, and the Niners, and the Seahawks.
Thank you.
With the Niners and Rams being in 2 of the wild card spots, and then the Bucks being in the 3rd.
All right, we'll see if that works out. So I want to give a big congratulations to 4 people who qualified for our DraftKings contest. They are Damon Clark, Jeff Satterfield, Antoine Edmond, and Lynn H. Now, if you have any questions about who is qualified for our DraftKings tournament, we put that on our website, fantasyfootballconsultants.net, and it's in the post called Daily Fantasy Football Lineups. Reminder, once you qualify, later in the season, you can enter two free contests, each where the top person wins $50. You'll fill out a full DraftKings lineup on the main slate for that week, and whoever scores the most gets $50. So, Michael, the contest this week is really wide open. We're going to take a page out of the FanDuel book on the FanDuel channel. We're just going to ask you to pick whatever you think the best play is on the main slate, regardless of position, given their DraftKings price. That's one thing you need to say. The second thing is you have to explain your reason. I will select subjectively not only who makes the right call, but how good their reasonings are for that call. And then finally, please tell us your DraftKings username. If you don't put your DraftKings username, we can't put you in the contest, so you can't qualify. One of the benefits of this contest is you can go back and look at the comment section later in the week, and maybe something that someone else says in the comment section will help you in your lineup. That's what this channel is all about. Michael and I give you our opinion, but we have a really smart FFC community, so we want to hear what you guys think. Michael, tell us about our lineup. Who did well in week 5 and who didn't?
Well, I figure we should get the bad news out of the way first. So the duds include Matt Ryan with 8 points. It turns out that Matt Ryan is terrible without Julio Jones. It's so weird. Olamide Zaccheaus with 2 points. Again, Matt Ryan We had to sub Zacchaeus in because Damiere Byrd's game got pushed back, and they were the same price point. And since Matt Ryan didn't do well, Zacchaeus didn't do well either. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire with 11 points. He did get a 9-yard touchdown reception called back because of offensive pass interference from Travis Kelce. That was a horrible call, but nevertheless, still finished with 11 points.
One of the things that we commented about is how much he gets involved around the goal line inside the 10 carries. So it was particularly aggravating that not one, but 2 rushing touchdowns came, not by another running back, because Helaire gets all the carries, by Pat Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. We just got kind of unlucky on that one, I think. And we talked about it. We came so close once we heard Julio Jones was out within the hour before kickoff of switching to Teddy Bridgewater. We didn't. Tell me some good news. What about?
Well, our team was carried by our top 3 highest scorers, with Robbie Anderson with 22 points being the third, Darius Slayton with 24 being the second, and Mike Davis with 30 points. What a day.
All right, let's move on. So what was our total points for the week?
So our total points was 138 points.
All right, let's see if we can do even better in week 6. Let's go to the studio.
Welcome to our cash game section of our DraftKings lineup. So, Eric, where do we normally like to start first?
Always, Michael. We want to start at running back. That is the position that is most easily predictable, and that's usually where we want to allocate more of our salary. I tell you, $8,500, Michael, is about as cheap as you ever will get for Christian McCaffrey. There is one problem. He's still on IR, although there's a chance he's going to come back. I don't think it's going to happen, and that's what it looks like. But we can get Christian McCaffrey light. That is Mike Davis. I'm telling you, Michael, Mike Davis has gotten, since he's taken over for Christian McCaffrey, 7.3 receptions a game. What's noteworthy about that? If you project that out for a 16-week season, that is 117 receptions. Guess who led receptions last year? Christian McCaffrey with 116. So we can spend all day debating whether Mike Davis is better than Christian McCaffrey. And anyone who knows football knows he's not, but he's good, and he's playing Christian McCaffrey's role, and you get him for only $7,000. And this involvement in the passing game on DraftKings with a full PPR is so powerful. He is a home favorite. Implied total is pretty good, 23. And finally, he plays a Chicago defense that, is middle of the road. And might I add, Mike Davis is game proof. So it doesn't matter whether they're ahead or behind, he's always in the lineup.
Wow, Eric, can't believe you're the one spending all the cash now.
$7,000 is not that much, and you made me do running backs. That's just the way it works. And speaking of spending cash, all right, I won't. I'm going to save you money, Michael. At only $5,800, super excited to get David Montgomery in the lineup. With David Montgomery, there's a couple things. People might go, but David Montgomery, he hasn't done well. Why are you putting him in your lineup? Just 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks, only 10 carries each? That doesn't sound like a bell cow, because we always say we want a featured running back. And by the way, he's on the road. He's not home. He's not a favorite. None of the things look good for David Montgomery. All right, let me knock those things down one at a time, Michael. First off, look at the 2 teams he's last faced. Indianapolis and Tampa Bay are the 2 toughest teams in football to run against. And since Tariq Cohen has gone down, it's all David Montgomery. He's the featured back, okay? He's going to get the lion's share of carries on this Chicago Bears team. He is the goal line back. And now he gets featured heavily in the passing game. And by the way, he faces a Carolina Panther rush defense That's not good.
Yeah, and to elaborate on what you said about the Carolina defense, their passing defense is actually really pretty good. And so passing on them is kind of a challenge. And the Bears don't exactly have the best of passing games, but everyone runs on Carolina. And so it's always a great idea to choose the running back that's versus Carolina. And that is a nice number. 32nd worst. There are 32 teams in the NFL, guys. That's bad.
All right, so let's switch to wide receiver. Michael, who are you going to select there?
I'm going to select Adam Thielen for $7,300. Now I know he is more than Mike Davis, but there is a good reason why we are going with Adam Thielen.
All right, let's hear it.
He has averaged 9 targets a game, and he's going against a horrendous Atlanta D. They're so bad against the pass. It's incredible. They're the 31st worst team against the pass. And over the past 5 games, he has averaged a touchdown a game, which is really pretty key. And I know, you guys are going to be like, oh, but they're just going to run because they're going to get up on Atlanta. But Minnesota doesn't have that good of a defense. And yep. I hope that Matt Ryan can at least score to keep the game close. But regardless, he's the number 1 receiver and Kirk Cousins' favorite target.
They also don't have their number 1 running back, Dalvin Cook. Now, I know Alexander Madison is very talented, but he's not Dalvin Cook. So that the fact that they might lean a little bit more on the passing game is definitely possible. Look, I watched every second of that Seattle-Minnesota game, and Kirk Cousins just at times keys in on Adam Thielen. He has such a rapport with him. And this game, highest over-under on the slate, 55. So I like it. Let's attack this game.
All right. For wide receiver number 2, we're going to go with Kenny Golladay. Now, yes, Kenny Golladay is a great pick. For the price of $6,200, he is Matthew Stafford's favorite target. And those of you that know the Lions, they throw all day. Their running game is non-existent. And over the past 2 games, he has averaged 7 targets. But before that, he had been injured. He is an extreme red zone threat and Matthew Stafford's favorite target. And Jacksonville is 18th best against wide receivers. And they have no shutdown corner, which means Matthew Stafford will key in on Kenny Golladay. And Detroit has a terrible defense, so Jacksonville should be able to score on them, keeping the game relatively close.
Yeah, you talked about him being a red zone threat. I mean, the guy is just huge.
It's like Calvin Johnson, but just not as much on steroids.
So he just makes for a big target around the end zone. I also love picking guys that are coming off buys. The team is coming off a bye. They should be fresh, playing a Jacksonville team that played last week. Another super high-scoring game on the main slate. Very good. 2 wide receivers that are the number 1 wide receiver in really high-scoring games. How are you going to round off that wide receiver triplet?
Well, Eric, you're going to like this. I went with a super budgety, cheap option and his name is Damiere Byrd. In his last game that he played, he caught 5 of 10 targets for 80 yards. He is the number 1 receiver on New England. And I know that sounds like, oh, that's not the best thing in the world, but believe it or not, it actually is. For the low price of $3,500, it's pretty valuable.
Let me get in on this, Michael. So I know a lot of people are going to disagree with what you just said, right? Because what are you talking about? Damiere Byrd is the number 1 right receiver. They have Julian Edelman. They have N'Keal Carey.
Edelman's 34 years old, guys. Come on.
But here's the bottom line. Guess who has the highest percentage of snaps? It's actually Damiere Byrd. 92% of the snaps that Damiere Byrd plays. So let's see. The bottom line is he's a steal at 3,500. We had him in our lineup last week at 3,000 for the same game. Because it got delayed a week, we had to pay up $500 extra through no fault of our own, but we still think he's worth it. we aren't going to pay up 2 weeks in a row at tight end, but we want to make sure that we're comfortable we're going to get a good floor. So at only $4,100, we are excited to get Eric Ebron. Now, I know he's listed now as questionable. That was a very recent tag that came in today. He didn't practice, but we're going to monitor it. Obviously, if he is out, we will make a change in our lineup. But look, here's the deal with Eric Ebron. He gets consistent tight end targets in a very good passing game, in a great matchup against the Cleveland defense that does a terrible job against the pass. It does a terrible job at defending tight ends. He's in on 77% of the snaps, and he's a home favorite with an implied total of 27.
For our flex position, we decided to go with James Robinson. I mean, what's not to love about James Robinson? He's just been doing so well. In the first 4 games that he played, he averaged over 90 plus yards. And he has been averaging 18 touches a game. And Detroit is 31st against the run. James Robinson is the bell cow back. He is on a tremendous amount of snaps. He catches passes. He runs the ball. He's the goal line back. He's everything you want to see for. And he's at home.
So, Michael, we can take a look at the lay of the land. We have only $4,650, a total of $9,300 to spend on a QB and a defense. It's not much. We can't afford the top QB, so we got to be a little bit budget conscious here. Where do you want to go?
Well, I'm glad that you asked. We decided that we would go with Matthew Stafford. Now, Matthew Stafford is actually really surprisingly good. For $6,300, he's consistently one of the quarterbacks that just always throws. He's like Matt Ryan in Atlanta when they don't have a running game. They just consistently throw. All of his weapons are healthy. Those first couple weeks of the season, his weapons weren't healthy, and so he wasn't doing as well. But now that Kenny Golladay is fully back to healthy, he should really explode onto the scene. Jacksonville ranks 29th in passing yards per game, and Matthew Stafford averages 2 passing touchdowns and 254 passing yards a game. So not the highest numbers, but he's putting up these numbers without his star number 1 receiver. So with the addition of a star number 1 receiver, we feel that Matthew Stafford is due to have a big game.
Yeah, again, Detroit's coming off a bye. I think that's a benefit. Like you mentioned, the terrible Jacksonville defense has allowed 280 passing yards per game. Wow. All right, so getting Stafford in our lineup leaves us $3,000 for a defense. Okay, I just ripped the Detroit defense a second ago, so I'm not picking them, even though they're exactly $3,000. Who I will pick is the Miami Dolphins, who I'm surprised how cheap they are. They are much more expensive on FanDuel. So look, there's some things to like about the Miami defense in and of itself. How about the fact that they did your team a pretty big number. They put a big number on your team last week, the San Francisco 49ers. 5 sacks against Jacksonville a couple of weeks before. They got 4 sacks. Look, there are 11 defenses that are ranked higher and 9 defenses that are cheaper. So they're a little below middle of the road pricing on DraftKings. You wouldn't expect to get a home team that does attack the offense. That's a 9-point favorite against one of the most mistake-prone teams. That's the New York Jets, who just gave away their best offensive weapon in Le'Veon Bell. Wow. Look how well they do in a passing offense, the Jets. Second worst, I think only behind their New York counterpart.
Oh my God.
The Giants. But this is a team that we can attack at only 2,900. I'm really excited to get them in our lineup. So that is our cash game lineup. Stafford, Davis, Montgomery, Thielen, Golladay, Byrd, Ebron, Robinson, and the Miami Dolphins. Let's talk GPP.
Hey folks, welcome to the GPP section of our DraftKings show. So Eric, what made you go with the Detroit at Jacksonville stack?
Yeah, how about 54.5 total points? Only behind one other game, which is 55 total points. So you know what I also like about this Detroit-Jacksonville game is it's only a 3-point spread. So that spells shootout. The lines makers think both teams are going to score a lot of points. So I don't think Detroit's going to just get way up and start running. I think they're going to be forced to continue to pass. And we already talked why we love Stafford and Golladay. Not only because he's the number one wide receiver, he's also the number one red zone threat. So we like that. And then going back the other way, Shenault on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I absolutely love him if DJ Shark is out. But even if DJ Shark plays, Shenault has been a major part of this offense. Once again, he didn't practice on Wednesday, so we will monitor that. But he's been getting consistent targets, and that will only increase if Shark doesn't play.
Yeah, it's almost weird. It's almost like he is the number one receiver on Jacksonville and no longer Shark. All right, Eric, Jonathan Taylor and Myles Gaskins.
Yeah, so there is some negatives about Jonathan Taylor and Myles Gaskin. There are two running backs who I think are game script dependent. I think they're a lot more valuable if their team plays from ahead. Well, guess what? Both the Colts and the Dolphins are more than a touchdown favorite, and they're both at home. So I think game script wise, these guys are going to be fine. They also, when they're in the game and they're not in a situation where the team is way behind, they get involved in the passing game. Phillip Rivers loves dumping off passes to his running back. So I like the ceiling of these two guys game script wise.
Yeah, though another concern on Jonathan Taylor is Nyheim Hines.
But Nyheim Hines is in the game when they're behind on third down. As long as they can stay ahead, Taylor will be getting his carries.
So Terry McLaurin of the Washington team, does Alex Smith being a quarterback scare you away from using Terry McLaurin since he always dumps the ball off and never throws deep? Kyle Allen hasn't quarterbacked in a year.
I don't even know who's going to be the quarterback on Washington. It seems strange to say it, but as bad as Haskins was, and he was bad, he had a rapport with McLaurin, right? So it does concern me a little bit. I didn't feel comfortable putting McLaurin in the cash game because I don't know if he has a high floor, but it's undeniable McLaurin has a high ceiling. He plays against a Giant team that isn't a very good team. And what other weapons does Washington have in the passing game?
Jonnu Smith of the Titans coming off of that big game versus Buffalo. We like to see that pick.
Yeah, the problem here is they don't have other wide receivers. They all have health issues, right? We have Adam Humphries and Corey Davis who are both out. Now, I think that they're still going to be out this next Sunday. And assuming that's the case, I love Jonnu Smith's ceiling. Tennessee and Houston is a really high-scoring game, that the highest-scoring game on the slate at 55 total points. I don't see why you wouldn't play Jonnu Smith at a criminally low $5,200.
Yeah, what a steal, man. What a steal. Alexander Madison for $7,200. After all, you guys do know that Dalvin Cook will probably not play after he sustained an abdominal strain, I think, against the Seahawks.
So the other stack that we always like to target besides the quarterback wide receiver one, is the running back defense. And that's what we're doing with Alexander Madison and Minnesota. The best time to do that stack is to do it when the team is at home and the team is favored. And that's what Minnesota is. Because that's the situation, we are telling a story with this GPP lineup. And the story is that Minnesota is going to clobber the winless Atlanta Falcons. And if they do,
just fired Dan Quinn.
Yeah, and if they do, their defense should be able to pin their ears back and go up against a Matt Ryan throwing the ball. And when Minnesota has the ball, they're gonna run the ball. I like this stack, Michael, even better if Julio Jones does not play.
Oh yeah, definitely, because you saw last game where when Julio Jones didn't play, Matt Ryan was not the same person.
All right, and that is our GPP lineup.
If you have made it this far into the video, please consider hitting the like button and smashing the subscribe button to join the FFC community. We almost have 7,000 members of the community, all who know a ton about football, so if you have any questions, do not feel free to leave them down in the comments.
Yeah, flaunt that knowledge by telling us in the comment section who your best play for DraftKings is on the main slate, and give us the reasons why, and tell us your DraftKings username, because you could qualify for a free contest on DraftKings where there's only going to be the FFC community participating, where you can win up to $100. Until we see you guys next week, take care, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you all for tuning in, and good luck in week 6, guys.